Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are, and welcome to the fourth Fleet APAC expert meeting of this year. It's the last one, and this one is about the 5 recommendations for professional and benefit fleets in APAC. My name is Yves Helven, I will be your host, and I'm joined by Steven Schoofs, my colleague, who will co-host the session together with me today.
So welcome everybody, looking forward to an interesting and exciting session because we all know, of course, that the APAC region can be quite complex to manage, but we hope that also in this session we can give you some recommendations to better manage your APAC fleet in the upcoming future.
This expert meeting is sponsored by our partner Geotap, and we would like to thank Geotap for their collaboration and their continuous support for the Fleet APAC activities. Just a quick reminder, what is an expert meeting? We do a 90-minute virtual conference, and we deliver expertise by fleet managers, by supply chain representatives, basically by different types of Fleet APAC experts. The content of this session, like all the other sessions, has been suggested to us and is supported by the Fleet APAC Advisory Board. We call the expert meetings your gateway to APAC content and networking. Please join our APAC sessions as much as you can, because there's always some good recommendations for you coming out of these sessions. Let's go into the agenda today. We have a pretty packed agenda again. In the first session, we will be talking about how to manage a professional fleet in APAC with a little bit of a focus this time on tool of trade fleets. This session will be presented by Jared Singh Ching from Geotap. Jared is based in Singapore, and he is a business development manager for Southeast Asia. We move to the second session, where we continue talking with Jared, but we also invite Johan Forseke and Suri Amarnath from respectively Great 10 and Dotline Group. And we will be talking about the benefits of a tech-powered fleet in APAC: safety, sustainability, cost, and efficiency. So the 4 big KPIs and how these KPIs can be supported.
That will be interesting.
Technology, indeed. The next session is it's going to be a very interesting one. We've been talking about the KPIs quite a lot. We talk about technology quite a lot. We've talked about policy. We've talked about OEMs, about leasing. But now it's time to talk also about operations, right? And we're going to deep dive into one of the biggest fleets in APAC. And this particular fleet is based in the Philippines, over 3,000 vehicles. And we have invited the fleet manager, Ernest Ramil Mangune, to talk about how he manages that fleet in a complex country, Stephen, like Philippines, with lots of islands, with a very diverse supply chain, and with very diverse needs in function of the different sub-regions, cities, and purposes of the vehicles.
So, and Ernest, he will share his best practice and also give us some recommendations on how operationally you need to do your management of your fleet in a complex country like the Philippines.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a little bit of a sneak preview here. Ernest will even talk about electrification in the Philippines. Session number 4, Solving the Sustainability Challenge, by our good friend Aravind Faluvan. Aravind, who is the category manager, Fleet APMA at Novartis. And Aravind will talk about electrification in, again, a specific country that is not the most typical country where electrification is normal. He will be talking about electrification in Japan.
Okay.
And then finally, we try and bring everything together in the last session and formulate 5 recommendations for a professional and benefit fleet in Asia-Pac. And here we invite Isan So, who is Jared's colleague, also based in Singapore, working for Geotap. We continue talking with Ernest, and we also invite Aravind to the stage to find out what the 5 best recommendations are.
Okay, so with those 3 experts, we will then conclude in sort of a roadmap that the attendees can take with them into their organization in terms of optimizing both their benefit but also the functional fleet across APAC.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, let's start with our first session, managing a professional tool of trade fleet in APAC. Jared, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you well. Thanks.
Fantastic. Jared, I will be managing the slides for you. So just give me a sign or say the word slide, and I will move to the next slide for you. Is it okay?
Okay, sure. Okay, thanks. Thanks for
Thank you very much, Jared, for being with us and also for supporting this Fleet APAC expert meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is for Jared of Geotap.
Yep, thank you. And everyone, thank you for your time today. So I'm glad to have the chance to share some of the insights, challenges, and KPIs that I came across in the scope of my work, right, in the Southeast Asia region. So for today, we'll be talking about managing a professional or what we call a tool of trade fleet, right, in APAC. So you can go to the next slide. I think it's prudent for us to actually start off the discussion with essentially what is a tool of trade fleets, right? So essentially, tool of trade fleets refer to vehicles that are essential for specific industries. So normally, when you talk about tool of trade fleets, it's about your light commercial vehicles, such as your vans, your pickups, mini trucks, so on and so forth, right? That is typically used to transport, equipments, goods, or provide on-site services. So this kind of tool of trade fleets, right, actually stretches across a wide range of sectors. So including things like construction, logistics, field services, utilities, and of course, emergency services as well. So obviously, you have seen them on the road itself, but in this case, right, it's actually more common than the heavy-duty trucks that you see on the road, and there are a lot more numbers of them right on the road as well. Next slide, please. So essentially, when you think about the composition of this kind of tool of trade fleets within the companies itself, right? Then it's not hard to actually see that and from the discussion that we have with our Southeast Asian customers, is that topmost on their minds is always about the main challenge that they're facing is about rising operational costs. So this could be things like rising fuel expenses in terms of maintenance, in terms of vehicle wear and tear, accidents, so on and so forth, right? This is especially true in Asia's high traffic and dense urban congestion areas, right? And in this case, at the same time, right, they will need to actually ensure that the drivers that are actually driving the vehicles, right, are driving the vehicles safely and compliant to in-country laws, right? So with such a diverse driving conditions across APAC and across the region, right? And unfortunately for us, right, I think it's very consistent as well that we are experiencing. I'm sorry. I think the slides has moved. Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I'm still not seeing the slides at this moment. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So as I mentioned just now, one of the problems that we face is essentially a shortage of good drivers. And that's why most of the time, right, you will find that the fleet is actually driven by a mix of experienced and novice drivers. And again, right, this will add complexity to the process of ensuring that everybody knows, what is expected as a driver of a certain company, right, or certain vehicles, right? And then it becomes not a non-trivial process, if I may add. And last but not least, right, again, we are hearing a lot of pressure from the sustainability angle. So what do I mean by that is that in order for these tool or trade companies to actually secure projects or opportunities with other companies, reducing emission and moving towards greener fleets, right, is becoming increasingly essential and mandatory requirements in order to work with the other companies and maintaining their competitive edge. So this is because many companies now are setting environmental goals to meet regulatory mandates for themselves as well as for their contractors or their vendors, right? So in this case, unfortunately, in this case, right, the tool or trade fleets and the tool or trade companies, right, are being stuck in the middle. And then in order for them to be able to meet the requirements of these companies, they are even forced or pressured to actually go green or to actually provide some evidence that they are reducing emissions in their area of work. Can you go on the next screen, please? Next slide, please. Yep. So in terms of the challenges and then the subsequent KPIs, right, for two or trade fleets, right, essentially, I think we can condense the KPIs into four different categories. So of course, the first thing is again efficiency, right? So how are they able to acquire accurate data and metrics, right, related to fleet efficiency? For instance, the vehicle utilization rate, are they on the most optimum route in order to deliver things or complete their jobs on time? So I think this is the first thing that comes to mind, efficiency. The second thing, as I mentioned just now about rising operational costs, right, it's about cost control as well. So how are they able to acquire accurate data and metrics for cost control purposes? This could be in the area of getting accurate fuel consumption data, getting vehicles to be maintained at a timely manner to avoid catastrophic damages to their vehicles and then resulting in vehicle downtime as well. Or just a simple vehicle depreciation, right? So obviously, some of the vehicles can last for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Every year, actually, the value of the vehicles depreciate. So how are they able to help to actually control the state and condition of the vehicle so that, after, if they want to resell these vehicles, are they able to do so at a good value? So this is another aspect and challenges for the two or trade fleets. Safety, as I mentioned, again, how are we going to mitigate between the experienced and the novice drivers, right? And then giving them a standardized set of profiling rules, right, where they are able to acquire accurate data and metrics for driver profiling purposes, and then reducing the high accident rates due to varying route conditions and, of course, driver experience as well, right? And last but not least, how are they going to balance the pressure of providing sustainable business practices, right, versus the related costs in actually going green, in actually reducing carbon emissions, right, to maintain their edge over the competitors. So next slide, please. So actually, if you look at it, right, the fundamental problem for the two or trade fleets is essentially, do they really know their real cost of doing business? They are struggling for various reasons, right? It's because obviously they don't have access to accurate data. They do not have the ability to actually make sense of the type of data that's coming in and analyze, where we can streamline, they can automate, they can actually reduce costs or be more efficient in certain areas, right? So at the end of the day, ultimately, it boils down to one single question, which is that if you know the real cost of doing business, will it help you to actually mitigate all these challenges and help you to meet these KPIs? I think the answer is yes. But the solution to actually getting or resolving this fundamental problem, right, it's not so easy. It's actually a mix of technology, policies, and proactive programs, right, and initiative from the companies itself. And with any of these three matrices does not move, right, or the motivation to actually embark on all of these three initiatives does not move, right, then it's actually quite hard to actually move the needle, so to speak, for these two or three fleets. So coming from Geotab, I wanted to provide my 2 cents on how technology like Geotab can actually help the two or three fleets to actually address this concern. Next slide, please. So in terms of efficiency, right, the good thing about Geotab platform is that you can actually just use our platform to actually provide you the detailed trip histories of these two or three vehicles and fleets, right, to essentially provide you what goes on in the day of a delivery man or what goes on in the day of a professional service provider, right? So how long does it take to get from point A to point B? And then how long do they stay in point B to actually provide the services? And then when do they leave point B to move on to point C and point D going forward, right? So even with this kind of trip histories, right, is not taken for granted because different technology providers have different varying degree of accuracy and data resolution, right? So the amount of insights that can be generated from even a simple thing, a simple report such as trip histories, varies across different solution providers. And of course, at the same time, right, if you're able to know your vehicle utilization rate, will that help you to actually plan out properly to actually assign, more drivers or more contractors, right, to actually complete jobs on a single day basis. So technology like Geotab, using the Geotab platform, productivity module definitely can help in that sense. In terms of cost control, many of our customers are also actually using our platform to actually acquire accurate fuel consumption data from the vehicles themselves or through fuel sensors, and then leveraging on our maintenance management features to monitor the vehicle health remotely 24/7. And if there's anything that happens, anomaly that happens to the vehicles, right, notification will be triggered, and then the operators will actually know about it, and then do some proactive step to actually minimize vehicle downtime and minimize the repair costs and operational costs as well. For safety, again, using Geotech's platform, right, where we collect essential data such as how you drive your vehicles, like harsh acceleration, harsh braking, and harsh cornering, and how many times they occur, right? And of course, speeding itself, right? Will having access to all of these four data allow you to do the driver risk profiling, and then after that, helping you to actually come up with what we call a driver safety scorecard and providing in-vehicle alerts, right, to reduce incidents and accidents and encourage safe driving, right? This could be something that Geotech can help as well in the area of safety. And last but not least, right, for sustainability purposes wise, Geotech has embarked on this journey much earlier than many of our competitors. So we are helping fleet managers, of course, including two or three fleet managers, right, to see how they can electrify their fleets. So at this moment right now, right, I think the fundamental questions that a lot of the fleet managers will have in their mind will be essentially how do I actually convert or transit from my traditional ICE vehicles to the appropriate EV models, right? So Geotech actually has that module, that what we call EVSA or Electric Vehicle Sustainability Assessment module or plugin. That will be able to give you a recommendation based on your historical telematics history, and then provide you recommendation based on the range assurance, the cost of getting a new EV versus a new ICE vehicles, and then obviously the impact on the carbon baseline, right? And then we will do the recommendation and allow you to actually make an informed choice about which EV models that would be appropriate for your environment, and then taking into consideration cost metrics, the impact on the carbon side of things, as well as, of course, the range assurance. The traditional ICE vehicle, they can travel 400 km, 500 km, no problem, right? But can you do that on your EV van or EV trucks? So these are the things that will be topmost on their mind, and technology like Geotech can help. So going on the next step. So I just wanted to close off my sharing today with some success stories from various parts of the world for two or three fleets. So for Safe Light Autographs, they're actually a windshield repair services company. They have 9,600 units across the entire country. And then upon successfully implementing the telematics solutions, they are able to enjoy close to 53% reduction in fuel costs associated with idling. So 30% improvement in fuel efficiency, and that translates to close to 1.1 billion in annual fuel savings as well. So this is one of the success stories that we have. Black and Welch, construction consultancy services company, through safety itself, and the implementation of telematics solutions, they're looking at 28% improvement in average fleet safety scores in scoring, and then lowering the accident rate from over 5 to 3 accidents per million miles, and essentially reducing 87% reduction in the number of high-risk drivers as well. For Okin, again, we are able to help them to actually reduce the number of accidents, number of claims, related claims costs, and of course, also to help them to reduce their fuel costs associated with idling, translating to around $285,000 worth in annual fuel savings. So for the next slide, we go into detail on what Okin has done. So essentially, right, what Okin has done is that they are already very aware, of the idling side of things, trending, and the cost saving associated with idling, right? But the problem for this is that even with their best effort, to reduce idling, but it's very tough to actually for them to actually enforce what is going on at the field itself. So it was estimated that the idling time and the cost, which cost the company, right, is actually over 1 million in 2017, and which increased to 1.22 million in 2019, because of the fact that it's very, very tough to actually ensure and enforce that the drivers are not idling over 20 minutes of the time. So in fact, they have a process to say that all the drivers at each stop, you are not supposed to idle more than 20 minutes, or else, a report will be generated, and then you'll be told that you're not doing very well. But even with that kind of process in place, right, it's not possible to actually help them with this. So they come up with a creative idea to gamify this whole thing, right, make it into a competition, right, between different divisions. And then because of this competitive type of gamification, right, Okin managed to successfully reduce his idling by 8.4% in just a 3 months period. So this is a very classic example of, yes, Geotab as a technology provider can help, but then can we help them to enforce and ensure that the drivers are following the rules? The answer is no. So there needs to be some form of management strategies and approaches, right, to actually make sure that Okin actually gets the best value for their money, right, in a certain sense, and get the ROI through reduction in the fuel usage associated to idling. And then, in this case, right, as I mentioned, it reinforces how corporate initiative, backed by the correct telematics solutions and teamwork, right, can actually have a very powerful impact on both the environment as well as the bottom line of the company. So with this sharing, I will end off my session for today, and we'll go back to you.
Thank you so much, Jared, for the insights. Before we go to the next session, Jared, I have one question for you. You gave a few examples of how Geotab and technology in general can help customers achieve their key KPIs, safety, sustainability, cost. But my question to you is, when you start the relationship with the customer and you talk to them about technology, what is their first perception? Do they know that technology can help them, or is that something that you need to demonstrate to them before you actually start a big project with the customer?
Yeah, it's a very good question. This is actually a real thing that happens, right? Typically on the first meeting or second meeting with the customers, right? Where most of the time the customers will be in a very defensive mode. If you ask them, oh, are you using telematics? The answer is always yes, because telematics has been around for many years, right? So there's a very good chance that they're already using a certain form of GPS tracking, a certain form of telematics solutions in their fleet already, right? So, but the good news for me is that what I realized is that while maybe 10 or 20% of the customers, right, still insist that everything is good, everything's okay, but then there's a close to 70 or 80% of the customers, right, that knows that there are limitations and constraints, and then they are very happy and willing to actually explore other potential solutions, right, that will be able to help them in their operations. So in this case, education and training definitely is part of the conversation. What I found most useful, right, would be the use of a pilot or mini POCs, right, showcasing, demoing data captured from their fleets within the environment will be the best form of education, so to speak, and to prove that indeed they are missing out on various technologies, the various benefits, right, that the correct technology can bring to them. Yeah.
Super. Thank you so much, Jared. Please stay on for our next session, Jared. And the session is going to be about the benefits of a tech-powered fleet in Asia-Pac, safety, sustainability, cost, and efficiency. I'm also inviting to the stage Johan Forseke, head of APAC of Greater Dan. Hello, Johan. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much for having me here, and good to see you.
Okay. Yes, we can't hear you very well, but that's probably due to the technology here in our room, Yves. But okay, it's great that you are there. And then our third guest, ladies and gentlemen, is Suri Amarnath. He is the CEO of Thoughtline Group. Suri, welcome. Can you hear us?
Loud and clear.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Okay, very good. So we have three experts, Yves, and we have about 20 minutes time to ask some interesting questions. Perhaps I can go first and then you can add on. Okay, I would love to start with Suri. Suri, you are the CEO of Thoughtline Group. You heard, of course, also the presentation of Jared, where he already outlined a little bit the importance of technology, but also in relationship with some KPIs linked to safety, sustainability, cost, and efficiency. In your opinion, knowing the APAC market very well, is there one discipline in terms of KPIs that you say this is by far the most important? Is it safety? Is it cost? Or is it sustainability?
Traditionally, Stephen, I think the cost control and operational efficiency have been the key performance indicators, right, in the fleet industry. But I would say in the past decade, there is an added emphasis on safety and sustainability, and that's what we are seeing. In that context, I would say the driver behavior monitoring and vehicle maintenance, kind of top the charts, right? And with the, Jared knows this very well with the current telematics data explosion. We are in a much better position to ensure or at least preemptively address some of these behaviors, thus trying to enforce safety. For example, telematics, we all know, you can obviously, catch the running a red light or, harsh braking, etc. But, some simple things like, repeated warnings being ignored, like, engine oil at critical levels or, tire pressure not there, right? Those kind of things can be addressed. And, Jared also showed how it can be gamified so that, diligent drivers can be rewarded for taking care of these things in time. So telematics provides the data, we analyze and present it, and it's up to the client to act on it, right? So I would say safety and sustainability are some of the key factors right now.
Johan, from your end,
Yeah.
greater than obviously big focus on safety. But how have you seen that evolution of KPIs from, say, cost focus to cost plus safety plus sustainability? Is that something that you're noticing in your relationship with your customers in the APAC region?
Yeah, well, I would agree a lot with Suri there, and I would definitely say that.
Johan, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
It's kind of patchy. It was patchy for me.
Okay.
Dave,
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you now. Sorry.
We can hear Suri, but we cannot hear Johan.
Are you still
I
can't
can hear
me?
Johan perfectly fine.
Okay, good. Yves, can you hear me or not?
Yes.
I think the rest can hear me, so maybe I can talk to the rest of the people and.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go ahead with that in the meantime then. I would agree with Suri a little bit on the evolution there of KPIs, and I would definitely say that sustainability is becoming a KPI right now in terms of total emissions per driver, per kilometer driven as well. Is becoming much more important now, and that's mainly regulation and requirement driven from the government. I'd say as well that you start seeing more driver just safety KPIs being important as well. But in my experience, those are mostly driven from a cost perspective as well.
Johan, for your information, we're flying a little bit blind when it comes to sound for the moment. So we still hear Suri, but we have trouble hearing you.
Yeah. Jared and Suri, could you hear me there?
Yes.
The answer is yes for me.
Okay. So yeah, at least the rest of the webinar hopefully could hear me there.
I'll just intervene and ask the next question to Jared, if that's okay for you, Jared. And this is more about a follow-up on the question that I asked you in the previous session, where you explained, well, customers know about telematics, but they still need some education on, what is the next steps and how to professionalize the implementation of technology. What would you say is a normal journey for a customer to actually see results, from a first conversation to implementation to actually being able to put an ROI on an investment in technology?
Yeah, in this case, maybe I will need to go into a little bit of details in the sense that, as a typical sales cycle, there's always the first meeting, which is for the requirements gathering part of things. The second meeting to actually scope out, what do they really want to achieve in terms of KPI and what kind of challenges they need to mitigate, right? And then the third one will be obviously going on to prove or showcase that your solution is a good fit for what they are experiencing. And then last but not least, it's always about dollars and cents, right? Whether it makes sense for them to pay X amount of dollars in order to achieve operational efficiency, effectiveness, and then to achieve what the KPIs that the companies have for them. So in this case, right, this is in some sense 4-stage or 5-stage type of sales cycle or engagement cycle that we typically see for the customers over here in Southeast Asia. So on the very first meeting, right, many a times the problems can be very diverse. Exactly as what Johan and Shuri has mentioned, right? It could range from things like uh, productivity. I want to have a detailed trip histories, all the way to I want to have accurate fuel data, to safety, because their drivers could be getting a lot of accidents and then creating a lot of vehicle downtime as well. And last but not least, right, it's also about fulfilling certain sustainability or regulatory mandates for their own companies or for their customers as well. So the very first meeting will normally be focused on that. The second one will be essentially asking the predominant questions, right? If you have to focus and prioritize, what would that be? Pick a couple of KPIs and then we address it from there. So, and then last but not least, going to the POC and then going to the ROI phase of things, right? So, all along the journey, exposure to the customers that what is possible and what is feasible for them, right, will be very useful. And many of times, right, you realize that the initial first few so-called requirements and pain points, right, can be very easily simplified into 1, 2, or even 3 main challenges that the customer is facing. And if you can address, all one of them or 2 of them, right, most of the time the customers will be happy with that. So this is essentially the type of engagement that we are seeing. And then it's not a one model fit all type of conversation, right? Because at the end of the day, every company is different. It's on the different level of maturity, level of sophistication, right? And last but not least, operationally, process-wise, right, is very different for them as well. So we have to take that into consideration while trying to apply and recommend the best technology fit for them. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Jared. Johan, we're going to try again a question to you. Jared has just described let's say the roadmap to ROI. What does it look like for your product? How do the conversations go with customers? What are their needs? And how do you convince them that tech is part of the solution?
I'd say the most important that I found is to make sure that the technology you offer and the solution you offer to help them with their KPIs fits into their existing operation and also their existing business model as well. So that's usually how it goes. So it usually starts with understanding their business and how it works, whether within which industry that may be, and then making sure and setting up the solution so it can just be readily implemented based into their day-to-day operations and their existing business as well. So I'd say that's usually how it looks like.
Okay. I would love to continue with Suri and then a comment of Johan as well. I can imagine that if you have a fleet and you have a fleet in APAC in multiple countries with different profiles of drivers, that the question also pops up, where do I start implementing technology? Is there something that you can give, Suri, as a guideline? For example, do you start, for example, only with the bad behaving drivers? Are there some countries that you say, well, those are the countries probably where there is perhaps more risk in terms of safety? So look at least for there to start. Is there some guidance in terms of where you should start when implementing technology into your fleet, both on the fleet size but also on the country side?
Stephen, I had to confess that our exposure in Asia is quite less, but we have exposure in North America and Europe, right? But to answer your question, I would say, pretty much, we're not a product company. We provide services, right? IT services for the niche fleet market primarily, and our challenges are primarily the client's challenges. They come up with the need, and then it starts right there, right? So that's the goal. For example, something that happens specifically, actually we're talking to someone in India regarding some new requirements, where the culture and the model is totally different from what we are used to before. Like, for example, in US, if you take a regular what do you call it, a customer or a fleet driver, a car's maintenance is due, the employee driver drops the car in the dealer and either arranges an own transport or gets a courtesy rental from the dealer, right, which is arranged by the fleet company. And then they go and get the car back when it's done. In India, the expectation is the fleet company will pick the car up either from my home or my office and drop it back, right? It's more like a food delivery thing, right? They're used to things getting delivered here. So that's a totally different challenge. So the client is basically looking at, okay, now we need to build something to manage this process, this additional business process, right? And usually it tends to be like something like a mobile driven, because it's very common. So that's where we come in and say, okay, we need something that basically lets someone get the car and drop it back and show them every stage of the way during this process. So sometimes it's very specific to the country needs, right?
Johan, also for you, that question, is there some recommendation that you can give in terms of prioritizing a group of drivers or countries?
Yeah, I'd say. Oh, that was an echo. I'll try again. Okay, it sounds better now. No, I'll say usually you start from, depending on what the situation the business and the fleet is in, usually start from the market and the country where they have the most to gain from. So not only looking at the market where they have the most accidents, but also where they have the most accidents compared to a similar fleet within that market as well. And then you can see where they have the most to gain. So where's the low-hanging fruits in the organization. So that's usually a good way to start. And then you can get relatively quick win there as well and have the biggest impact as well.
Well, another question from me for you, and then I'm going to ask the same questions question to Jared and to Siri.
Yeah.
The Asian procurement people have the reputation to be the toughest procurement people in the world. Very tough negotiator, very much focused on ROI, and also very much focused on short term.
Yeah.
What is, in your view, the best way for a fleet manager to convince their stakeholder, to convince their procurement colleagues that an investment in technology is a good one and that results come over time and come throughout the investment and will not come next week? How, if you were, imagine you're a fleet manager, Johan, what are the arguments that you put forward to your stakeholders?
Well, of course, I would map out and recommend to map out what the ROI is, but I would put in real nitty-gritty detail how you actually plan to achieve that and how that will actually look like and what parts of the business will actually be affected. So if you're running a driver safety, for example, you want to invest in new driver safety technology and implement that across the business, really map out, okay, this is how we're going at it. These are the ones we're going to target. We're going to do it on a weekly basis. We're going to follow up monthly. So we know by month 2 or 3 if we've hit our expected ROI or not. So I would really map it out in detail. I see that usually work the most, rather than saying that I know how it is back home in Europe, for example, like we'll do this, it's going to be great, go ahead. And that's how you can drive a lot of decisions. But that's not, in my experience, that's not how you do it here necessarily.
Well, thanks so much. Jared, same question for you. How do you deal with this very, very tough procurement people?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add on to what Johan has mentioned, right? So if I put myself in the shoe of a fleet manager or my customer for this matter, right? I think I wanted to emphasize some key points in terms of how we should actually talk to these procurement managers, right? In the sense that, first of all, I think please do not treat technology as a cost center, operational tool, right? It's actually a strategic investment into your company, into your company services, and essentially driving down increasing bottom line, right? Because if you look at it by enhancing efficiency, improving safety, satisfying sustainability requirements, and at the same time improving customer satisfaction, right? Actually, the technology actually equips the company and the fleet managers to handle both current challenges as well as for future demands, right? So I think the concept of future proofing by investing in the correct technology, right, is very important and to drive it home. And last but not least, right, from experiences that we have done with our customers, right? Ironically, they thought that they will spend more, but actually it allows them to actually provide better services at a lower cost. So this is irony. This is ironic, right? But then, yes, this is indeed the effect, right? And as what Johan has mentioned, right? The problem is in the proving. Can you wait for 2-3 months to let you see that you get back the ROI, right? And then after that, everything is cost reduction, right? So this is actually the challenge that we face. But essentially, right, it's about education, it's about training, it's about proving through pilots and POCs, right? I think that's the only way to go about it. And to change the mindset that, purchasing a technology is not a cost center. It's actually a strategic investment. So I think this is just what I wanted to mention as well.
Thanks so much, Jared. Suri, last question also for you. Do you agree with Jared? Is technology or investment in technology is a strategic investment? And do you need to have different conversations with the stakeholders on the customer side?
Of course, I mean it is a strategic investment. I don't think there is any question about that. I would like to take a little bit of a more micro level approach to some of the issues there. For example, we are talking about an APAC fleet manager for a multinational fleet in the APAC region, and we are all aware that there are so many different countries, right, with a plethora of systems, regulations, processes, control, emission and safety standards, different cultures, etc. Right, so it is very similar to Europe, but probably 10 times more complicated than Europe, right? That is a huge challenge for any fleet manager to collate and consolidate and make sense of all this data from probably 10 or 24 sources and present it as a single metric for something, let us say, related to carbon credits or sustainability metric. That is where technology comes in handy in dealing with this massive amount of disparate data, and provide something like a sensible dashboard which gives you that, right? And so I don't think it's any longer like an option. I think it's a necessity if you're running a multinational fleet in APAC.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Suri. Thank you for having participated in this short panel discussion. Also, thanks to Johan of Greater Than, and of course to Jared of our session partner Geotab. Thank you very much, guys. You gave some interesting insights in terms of building KPIs and seeing the benefits of technology for your APAC fleet. Yves, I think that you now will have sort of a deep dive interview with an interesting fleet as well in the Philippines.
Exactly. Thanks, Steven. We're moving to the third session of today, and we're diving into fleet operations. The session is called 360 of Fleet Efficiency, Operations and Organization of Large Corporate Fleets in the Philippines. And I would like to call to stage Ernest. Ernest, can you hear me? And most importantly, can we hear you? It seems like we're missing Ernest. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try and solve the technical issue and move to the next presentation, which is presentation by Aravind Faluvan, who is the category fleet manager EPMA at Novartis. Aravind, good afternoon to you. Can you please let me know if you can hear me well?
Yes. Good afternoon and good morning to everyone who are in the part of Europe. Hope you can hear me.
I can hear. Aravind, I will be managing the slides for you. So just give me a sign when you want to change the slides, and the floor is yours.
Sure. Thanks, Zeus, and thanks, Nexus Communication team. Hi, everyone. So, I'd like to give you the journey where how we experienced the EV journey in Japan, basically. So, this is something not new to the APAC fleet managers. Basically, the challenges what we faced is something across Asia Pacific, basically. So every country is almost similar, like Japan, what we faced. So probably it could be something useful for you. What we did it in Japan and how we overcome these challenges. Can you move to the next one? The next one. Yeah. So just to give you a bit overview to start with. So what are the challenges normally in Japan or any Asia countries what we face when you want to electrify your vehicle or your fleet completely? So the first biggest challenge is the limited vehicle choice models in EV. So you don't have much of cars like what you have in Europe or US. Basically, there is a limited choice always, and especially in Japan, it's much limited. And when we started this journey in 2022, probably, so there are multiple challenges we faced, and the one unique is basically most of the Japanese colleagues doesn't drive a rear wheel drive car, so they need only front wheel drive, and most of the continental cars available in Japan are only rear wheel drive. So this is one of the challenge where we cannot go for any continental. You need to move only with the Japanese OEMs. And the biggest Japanese OEM is not more favorite towards the EV basically. And hence we need to search for a car at the time. And the lead times, everything is larger. So when we did started the pilot journey, so the delivery timeline was almost 10 months when I ordered the car. Still, it was going on, the challenges on the supply chain, but a little bit improved. And then the next challenge is the home charging, basically, where it is more popular in Western countries, but in Asia, it's very tough to install a home charger because most of the associates, most of us live in an apartment complex where it's tough to install a home charger, basically. And then in Japan, the other thing is the rapid charging is limited. Probably you can find a lot of 40 kilowatt chargers, but more than 50 kilowatt is something limited. And something unique to Japan again is you can charge only 30 minutes per session. So once you plug in, you need to plug out after 30 minutes. And if there is someone behind you, basically in a public charging station, you cannot continue your charger. So you need to wait for your next turn. So only 30 minutes is allowed. So this is one of the biggest challenge what we faced at the time. And our company associates also, it's a second home for them because they don't have an office when it's a tool of trade normally. So they spend most of the time, idle time in their cars, attending meetings, all those steps. So these are the few challenges what we faced. And we've opened up this with multiple companies. I also discussed with multiple peer companies how they're handling over there in Japan, electrification, everything. And then we started discussing with our leasing companies and OEM directly. So one of the key success why we here with electrifying the vehicle in Japan is mainly with the support of leasing company as well as the OEM who had supported us in direct involvement in the training of the associates as well. And then you have a good support from the government as well in Japan, where you get a good incentive basically. Previously, it was the incentives was paid to the leasing company, and recently from this year, April, it was changed to paid directly to the user. Basically, that means the company who leases the vehicle, so you get directly the subsidy of the vehicle. So it's an upfront payment. So that's good thing in Japan. Actually, you get the subsidy upfront so that your lease cost goes down on a cash flow. Solutions what we implemented is something in a detailed way, like we did study the driver profile, how a driver behaves normally in his daily life, basically whom he meets, basically what he does in the where he finds time, how he can charge in a public charging without affecting the business working hours, basically. So all those things we did a detailed analysis. I'll take you through in the next slides. And then the selection of right prefectures where you want to put a EV. Basically, this is so crucial in Japan when you want to put EV. And then the third is basically awareness to create the charging discipline. So I'll take you through in the next slides. Yes, can you move to the next one? Yeah. So this is a typical Japan map where you can see. So we did analyze the charging stations, the public charging stations availability first of all, basically how dense it is available and which are the locations it was available probably. So when we did this exercise, probably when we started this in 2022, so snowy areas means the northern part of Japan doesn't have much of charging stations. It has very limited resources to charge the car, and there is no big experience from any of the companies at that time in having a cars at a snowy areas. Hence, we didn't tried it, and we tried to avoid the snowy areas. And we did try to find at least minimum two charging stations within 3 kilometers radius of from their home at least before we give an EV to any employee. So this is more crucial. And even in Japan, basically, you normally the people doesn't park the car at the same home location. Sometimes they get the parking garage only within 1 kilometer radius of their home actually. So this is also a new thing. So we try to restrict people having EV only with 3 kilometer radius where they have at least some rapid charging stations, at least minimum two. And then the driving distance we did identify it, which is crucial, that how many times they charge a car in a week, which is more uh, hassle for them basically when they have to do it during the business hours, because as I explained in the previous slide, they can charge only 30 minutes per time basically per session. So which is also very crucial to monitor. So hence we restricted their mileage as well per week, whomever is having less than 700 kilometers, all these things. And then we did selected 50 associates initially, how we can run across this 25 prefectures, what I marked in this map. And we did this pilot and use maybe next move to next slide. Yeah. So this is a typical driver journey, probably tool of trade. Maybe a company like pharmaceutical will have this kind of things, and most of the sales guys will have this routine works. Basically, we did study something. What are they do normally on the way to work? Where they stop? Where they have their lunch? What they do with the meetings? How they attend their meetings? When they go back. So it has different type of guys, basically those who are meeting the HCPs, guys who are meeting the sales and distributors normally. So there were variety of guys who were driving the fleet currently. So we did classify them, and we uh, analyzed all the daily works, and we try to provide a solution how they can charge normally, where they can charge. We did align with the OEM whom we are having the contract currently agreement. So the guys can have the charge at the dealership locations all the day and attend some meetings in the dealership locations if they want. So they can plan well in advance. So they can just go park the car and put the charge in and then move into the office space and attend some of their meetings as well. So this is something an agreement we made with the OEM as well, which is more helpful currently to ensure the charging is made appropriately without affecting the business time. Yes, can you move to the next one? Yeah, this is something a typical where the guys was going to meet the HCPs normally 1 to 3 hospitals in a day. So how we are doing, what is their plan, everything. The next one, just to give you an overview how the Japan charging network. So probably this is 2023 status actually. Now it is getting improved. So they have 8,000 charging stations, rapid charging stations, and the standard 21,000. But it's more of 7 kilowatt or 9 kilowatt charging stations. But the Japanese government has set a target for increasing this to 30,000 charging stations from 8,000 actually, which is a good way. And we did analyze where this majority of the charging locations are basically. Is it a hospital? Is it a supermarket? Everything. So all these things help done by our leasing partner as well, mainly. So based on this one, we did map the employees, okay, where they are visiting normally. We do have telematics installed in all our cars in Japan, which help us to track the associates' routine paths so that we can support them with giving them guidance to charge, basically where they can charge, how they can charge, and how they can plan their charge throughout a week, basically. Next. And this is the some of the training sessions. Basically it's completely in Japanese because it's conducted in Japanese language. So the OEM trainings what we used to conduct basically. So during the pilot we did identify employees charging more than what they should actually, because they were in fear of draining out battery in middle of the road. So this going to charge even at the battery percentage of 80% something basically. So they used to charge regularly. So then the OEM pitched in and started giving some trainings basically that when they need to really charge, basically what is the percentage, idle percentage to go for a charge. Because if they charge the car at 90%, there is no meaning that they need to spend full 30 minutes but they get only 10% output. So this is something crucial as well, where they need to plan accordingly. So OEM had supported us to give us this overview, and they supported training the people as well. The next one. This is something an app very familiar in Japan. Basically, it's a GoGo EV app where it's you can find where is the nearest public charging station, okay, and what type of kilowatt rating charging stations is available near to your office location or near to your meeting location where you meet the HCPs, all these things. So this is being regularly used by our associates. And that's it from my side. Yes.
Amazing presentation. I have a few follow-up questions for you. The first
Sure.
being the timeline for the project, because like you highlighted, there's a few challenges that you had to deal with. There was the vehicles available, charging infrastructure, and then there's change management in Japan, which is a whole different beast in itself. So could you tell us how, from a timeline perspective, how long did it take? What were did you come to a point of result within the agreed timelines, or did you exceed your anticipations?
Yeah, timeline is something we just started this journey in 2022. We started analyzing the market basically in 2022. We decided that so Japan normally they will start. They need to have the answer upfront for any risk what you have. Okay, they need to have the answer. So some of the risk we don't have an answer at that time. So we decided that we'll do a pilot of 50. When we talked to the OEM, okay, the lead time, the minimum lead time was 9 months for the delivery. So the pilot started somewhere in 2023, and then we did run the pilot for 6 months, and we learned a lot from that one, how it behaves, everything, and then we successfully implemented the rollout of full plan basically somewhere end of December, end of 2023. Actually, yes, of course, the timeline was almost nearly 18 months, but the supply chain disruption also played a major role over there.
Absolutely, I understand that. And from a stakeholder management, because every time you implement change in Japan, like you mentioned, you need to be very well prepared. How did that go? How did you bring the project to your Japanese stakeholders? Were you supported top down by the organization, or did you take all the initiative yourself?
So it's not a top down. Probably we don't believe in the top down approach normally in what is basically. So it's a more coordination with the employees as well, basically to make them understand what it means and what is our Novartis ambition as well towards the external world on sustainability. So to make them understand, we did made multiple change management activities over there to make them aware what is happening across the world and what is the Novartis responsibilities as well.
And how would you describe the reaction of the employees, the medical reps, who were selected to drive with an electric vehicle?
Of course, initially 2022, no one was willing to go for an electric vehicle in Japan, definitely, basically. Okay, so it's not easy to handle them, basically. However, the course of actions, like I was telling, a series of change management activities, basically, made them to accept it, actually. It's not a forceful, we did give them a chance to drive a vehicle because always you have a pleasure of driving electric vehicle and you have that smoothness everything. Okay, so when someone feels that one, definitely, because I told during this discussion as well, so it becomes a second home for them. The car is the second home for them, and they attend most of the meetings in the car, basically. So while sitting in an electric car, normally they feel the better comfort of attending some meetings compared to a hybrid. So
So would you say, Arvind, that now you have promoters in Japan for further electrification in the region?
absolutely, we are doing it, and constantly we are also supporting through our leasing partner. Okay, the continuous guidance to how to improve the charging pattern, basically. So this is also we are trying to continuously doing.
Arvind, thank you so much for these insights. And what Arvind has proven to us here right now is that even if it's difficult, it's possible. I really liked the entire trajectory that Arvind went through, integrating also the OEM as a partner, integrating the employee in change management effort, and ultimately delivering electrification in a country where it is not so easy to deliver electrification. We're going to give it another try now to meet with Ernest.
Hi, Eve. Can you hear me
Our
now? Can
Ernest,
you hear me now? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
the way what I suggest, Ernest, is that I'll ask you a question and then you pick up on the question and I'll give you a few minutes to answer. And then we'll try to figure out how this can work best from a technology perspective. Ernest, my first question to you, because obviously we know each other, but can you please introduce yourself to the audience? Talk a little bit about your fleet, talk a little bit about your country, because I know that you're very proud of the Philippines and of what you've achieved over there. Just let us know who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Eve, for the opportunity to be part of this very interactive and very informative webinar. So I'm Ernest Mangune. I'm a fleet manager here in the Philippines. Mainly, my main role is to make sure that we provide roadworthy and vehicles in good condition every day to make sure our goods are delivered to our customers. So we are part of the last mile delivery of our operation. So we are also involved in making sure that we deploy safe, not only the vehicles, but also safe drivers that drives our vehicles.
And Ernest, how would you describe the fleet in terms of size, in terms of whether it's an urban fleet or a countryside fleet? What type of vehicles do you have? Could you help us a little bit on that one?
Yes. In the Philippines, we operate in 40 sites, so it's across the archipelago. So we have 40 sites of depots. We have around 3,000 vehicles. We deploy cars from the top level management, from the president down to the normal delivery truck drivers. So we have around 200 SUVs, around 1,200 pickup and MPVs, and around 1,500, I think you call it in your country or back there in EU, the box, four-wheel box delivery trucks. And recently, we have added last year EVs, full electric vehicles. We're using the BYD T3, the cargo van. So we started with 10, and then as we speak right now, we're at 40.
A little bit more on the EV specifically, a little bit more down the conversation.
Okay.
But Ernest, what I would like to know from you is you have one of what I think one of the bigger fleets in the Philippines. What is the typical way of managing a fleet in the Philippines? Do you buy the vehicles or do you lease them?
For our company, we have decided that it is more cost efficient if we buy the vehicles and maintain it instead of leasing it. I think we're getting a very good rates from our financial partners back here. That's why the loan rate or the interest rate of buying it in cash is much better than paying the interest rates on the bank or on the leasing company. Also, I just want to point out here in the Philippines, unlike in other countries, the leasing companies are not so big. Actually, I'm much bigger, 3 times, 4 times bigger than the leasing company. So I think we know better well to manage our trucks than to have a company who lease it. It's a different. The industry is not yet that I would say developed. So that's why we find it better to buy our own vehicles and we maintain it. I think we just made a conscious decision that when maintaining our cars, we decided to outsource the maintenance side. So the way we manage it is we buy the cars, we manage it from my department, but we outsource the actual service, meaning the PMS, the repairs, and then you just get good partners with the insurance companies, and so that's how we try to. That's our ecosystem, that I would say. So we buy it, we maintain it, but we get good partners. So on those 40 sites that I mentioned, we have at least 2 or 3 accredited vendors that we rely on, that they can do on-site repairs, and for much bigger repairs and maintenance, they pick up the vehicles from our depot, they bring it to their shops, and then they bring it back in when it's already fixed.
Understand. The powertrain of your vehicle. So you have 3,000 vehicles. You have a dedicated supply chain that you've developed yourself for maintenance, repair, tires. Now, if you buy new vehicles, I'm not talking putting the electric vehicles aside for now, but what would be the typical powertrain in the Philippines? Would you go diesel? Would you go
It's
a
the
bigger
usual 1.6 or 1.5 diesel engines. The normal, if you're familiar, the Isuzu single cab, so or the Isuzu NKR, so the usual Japanese brands, Isuzu and Mitsubishi.
And what can you tell us about Philippines? It's an archipelago, obviously, lots of islands. You talked about the supply chain, which you described, leasing companies not being so big. But what makes the Philippines difficult or more difficult to manage a fleet in than other countries? What do you see as the challenges that are typical to the Philippines?
Okay. Since we are an exporting country, importing, we import all the cars that we buy, uh, all the parts sometimes, even if you have a good relation with your dealer or your vendor, sometimes there are some parts that are very hard to get or they thought it won't break down easily. But when things happen that you need repairs, I think that's the biggest problem we have here, because if the manufacturing is either in Thailand or in Japan, So we talk to the dealers and they tell us, okay, we'll order this part. It will take 1 month, sometimes 3 weeks, sometimes 2 months, depending on the brand, depending on the specific part. That is usually the problem. So what we try to do is we talk to our dealers and we tell them, we will be ordering this many cars. Can you make sure parts of this are available, readily available, so that if something happens, then the parts are available readily.
Okay, thank you so much. In terms of fleet operations, so purely from an organization perspective, you lead a team of people that oversee the 40 sites. How have you organized the team itself? Do you have someone who is more technical? Do you have someone who is in touch with the drivers? Do you have someone who is in touch with the suppliers? What would you recommend, or how have you organized your operations, and what would you recommend to other fleet managers in
Okay.
the
Uh,
Philippines?
I'll answer that in two ways. First is, let's go to the driver. How do we manage the driver? I've been into this role for 10 years, but when I was new to the role, I was even training the drivers. I was in charge of their behavior, how they drive, and then management said, Ernest, you're gonna lose your mind. You cannot manage the drivers and manage the cars. We need to fix this. So good thing for me, after a few years they assigned a market safety and fleet manager, or a fleet safety. So he's in charge with the behavior of the drivers, the constant reminders, the training. So I have a counterpart who handles that. So for the cars, when there's something wrong, or on how we manage it, on the 40 sites that we have, I have at least one or two people that interacts with the driver. So if what we do is, I we discard, the PMS. It's usually mileage, right? They tell you 5,000 kilometers or 3 months, or whichever comes first. So these are the things that the dealers tell you. We decided, I will scrap the mileage. Every 3 months I'm gonna maintain the cars. So the interaction, or the issues that comes out, became half. It was sliced to half, because we maintain whatever, because our operation, all our vehicles return to the depot every day. So we operate 6 days a week. So every Sunday, all the cars are back in the depot. So every quarter, we take one Sunday and we make sure all the cars are maintained, the PMS, the brakes, the aircon, and everything. So the transaction or the issues are sliced into half, because I'm sure all cars are being maintained properly, but these are mechanical part. These are mechanical engines, and something really breaks down. So when something just really needs to be repaired immediately, these are the one-offs, or that's when the drivers goes to our people on site, and then they will tell them the problem, and we'll try to fix it as soon as we can.
Ernest, do you use a fleet management system, or do you maintain data on Excel sheets or something
Good thing
that
you asked that, Eve,
company has
because
developed?
yeah, right now we're all in Excel, but we have made big strides for the last 3 months. I've been talking to a software company. I said, we can manage it using Excel, but this is not the best way to do it. We need to find a solution to have a fleet management. I think the peculiar thing also is, because we're a buy, the fleet management systems on my counterparts, because they're leasing, the leasing company has the management system already, right? Because that's their business, they lease cars. For us, my main objective is just to make sure the cars are there to do the last mile delivery, and to make sure there's the local term we use is dead route. We cannot go to our customers. That's the mortal sin. So I said, if you will look at how people, or how other companies manage it, because they're leasing, they tend to rely on the leasing company's management system. But for us, since we're buying, we're somehow in the same business already. So we need our own management system. So it's something peculiar that we cannot just get out of the shelves. For the past 2 years, I've been trying to search in the internet. You see it there. It's there. You can buy it, you download it, you pay, and then it's already there. But because of the way we do things, I need a software company to sit down, understand our system, and do something really for us. So I'm hoping by next year we will be having that. And I think that's one of the tips. I think it took us a long while to really, realize, okay, Excel is okay, but this is not the best way to do it.
Before we talk about electrification, just one more question about the vehicles itself and the operations of the vehicles. At the end of the life cycle of the cars, the employees have the option to purchase the car themselves.
Yes,
How have
yes.
you organized that? Because it comes with risks as well.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. After the 5 years, 6 years, or after the economical value of the vehicle, we sell it to the employee. So to manage that, the first thing that was asked from us is, if we're gonna sell it to our employees, they might just park it in their house and stop using it, right? Or park it somewhere and they won't do their job. And then one of our commercial counterparts said, I think that's our job already. I said, thank you. What do you mean? Because he's giving the solution already. He said, we are the sales supervisor. We are the sales managers. They report to the depot every day. If they do not do their job because they park their car somewhere, it will reflect on their performance. So they are the first checkpoint. If these people are not delivering on what they need to deliver, their KPIs essentially, right? So they're the first one who will be seeing it, and they will be the first one to call it out. So they agreed that we can proceed with the project. It gives a sense, as one of our speakers said, it's their second home. So it gives them more pride to take care of the cars, and I think we've seen it. And also, we tried to prevent that because they know when the car is going to be refleeted, they have a tendency to request a lot of repairs, a lot of unnecessary things that need to be replaced. So we just, when we know the cars are about to be replaced, we're more stringent on approving what are the repairs, what are the things to be replaced in their cars or needs to be fixed.
Last question for you, Ernest, is all about electrification. We just had Aravind explaining how he managed to implement electric vehicles in a difficult country that is Japan. Now, your country is also a bit of a challenge when it comes to implementing electric vehicles. Nonetheless, you've done it. Please tell us
Yes.
how.
Actually, 2 years ago, the Philippine government passed a law to encourage people to shift to hybrid and electric vehicles. When we were crunching the numbers, Eve, actually, we realized this won't work because the first pain or the barrier that we saw was the acquisition cost is too high. It's almost 3 times the normal cost of the car that we buy. But in the Philippines, we have this set up, especially in Metro Manila, where I am now. We have this number coding scheme or volume reduction scheme that you are not allowed to use the road on a certain days of the week. So if your ending number of your plate is 1 or 2, so you're not allowed every Monday. So we took that into consideration. So the way we operate, we have our normal delivery trucks, and then we have a separate spare trucks just for the coding. So when we incorporated that into the equation, we are, let's say, one side, you have 40 vehicles, and then you get 20% of that easily. So if you include the 20% that we buy, we maintain just to do our operation, we said, this is our savings. This is the silver lining that we're looking at. So when you put that into the equation, okay, so we don't need to buy 20% more, we don't need to maintain 20% more. You put that into the equation, and then bam, then we realized, okay, this could work. This could work for Metro Manila. This could work for sites that have number coding schemes or volume reduction schemes. The one thing that you cannot compute that is intangible, I would say, is the happiness of the driver, because now they don't need to replace or change trucks once a week. What you drive on Monday, that's the car you will drive until up to Saturday, and then so just imagine transferring your stocks from one truck to the other. You do it 2 times because you transfer when you need to replace, and then when you return the spare truck, you transfer again, right? And so these are the intangibles that, once they use the EV and they realize they are exempted from the volume reduction scheme, they're so happy when the EVs needs repairs, they are, pushing us, when can I get my car again? Because they don't want to use the ICE vehicles or the ICE trucks anymore.
Thank you so much, Ernest. Please stay on. Thank you so much for the insights in managing a fleet in the Philippines. It's a unique country, like he says, but congratulations on everything that you have achieved, including electrification. Now, I would like to invite as well Izan So, who is a senior product manager at Geotap, and I would like to invite Aravind again, category manager of EPMA at Novartis. And Izan, I'll start with a question to you. What we're trying to formulate now is the best, or let's say the top 5 recommendations for managing a professional fleet in Asia Pac. Isam, based on what you've heard so far, testimonials from the customer, but also colleagues and other members from the supply chain, what do you think, or how would you formulate, let's say, the 1 or 2 most important recommendations for fleet managers in APAC?
Yeah, thank you. So today we have heard the presenters and also sharing session from the panelists over here on how connected technologies is important to help fleet businesses improve and also optimize efficiency. So in my point of view, I would say that for APAC region, since it's a very diverse market where there is diversity in terms of economy with infrastructure variance as well, and also regulatory differences and also the environment that we're living in. So there's a lot of consideration in place that we need to think of when it comes to optimize fleet businesses in Asia. So my recommendation will be on considering fleet utilization rate. So that is being able to use the technologies to actually track the performance of fleet actively being used so that you can actually measure the business outcomes that you want to achieve. So that is also an important matrix as well when it comes to managing fleet businesses. So you want to know whether the fleet is underutilized. So as a fleet operator, you will want to consider whether should you be relocating the fleet to somewhere else where the vehicle services is needed, or would you want to take in more jobs so that you can also improve the productivity of the business and to also help to optimize the cost of having that vehicle or the van that is in your fleet as well. So that will be my recommendation when it comes to managing fleet businesses in APAC.
Thank you, Izan, and good point of linking the utilization of the vehicle directly into the business model. Aravind, I would like to go to you, and with the same question, what is your number 1 and your number 2 recommendation with regards to managing of fleets, and then more specifically, tool of trade fleets in the region?
Sure, thanks, you. So I agree with her that it was a more diverse. The challenges are very common across all the countries, probably in Asia, normally what you see. But the solutions needs to be tailor-made that fits into the country culture, basically, and the commercials of the countries, basically how it handles normally. So you need to clearly make sure your policy, okay, how it fits into the country, and then you need to understand your drivers uh, behaviors, okay, or the daily works, okay, you need to get into that one, and choosing a right partner for you basically. So we do believe the operating lease is the best acquisition model in across countries basically. So choosing the right partner for you is most important as well to succeed in the electrification.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Aravind. Ernest, back to you. We've talked in depth about the efforts that you've done in the Philippines and also the successes that you booked and the challenges that you're still facing. Now, for someone who is new to Southeast Asia and who needs to start somewhere, what would you give? What kind of recommendations would you give to these people?
Yeah, I think my first recommendation is to really understand the business. You need to understand your customer and your stakeholder, how fleet plays a role to what they're doing. Because, as I've said, in my industry, a dead route, a dead truck, or a truck not being used is something, a very mortal sin that cannot happen. So you have to understand that. Do you need spare cars? Do you need a good maintenance team? Do you need a good communication? So you need to understand what they really need, when do they need it, and prepare for that. I also want to echo what Arabin said. Good partners and hiring good people, trainable people that can do their marching orders, that you can train, because every country is, or every company has a different system. I have employees coming from other companies, and they said, "Sir, we do this thing better. Sir, this thing is better. We do it from my previous company. I think we need to improve on this." So these are the things that we need to constantly improve. We train them, we provide them with the right tools, and then lastly, I think we need to simplify. That's from my learnings, because when I came over, just to give a background, I used to be with sales. So right now, I'm supporting 90% of the sale because it's a last mile delivery, right? So we just need to simplify, make it, because salespeople, for my side, salespeople, they're always on the go, getting their targets, right? So if the complex of requesting for repairs, requesting for a spare car, if this piles up, they would say you're doing such a bad job. So you simplify it for them, give them, understand what they want, and give it as soon as you can.
Very, very good tips. And I have one last question for the three of you. I will start with Izan, then I will move to Aravind, and then I will ask Ernest. On a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is not important at all and 10 is very important, how important is it to implement technology solutions in fleets in APAC? First, up to you.
I would say it's important, but again, I think every individual businesses and organizations are different. So depending on the budget that you have as an organization, are you ready to invest in technologies to look at improving your fleet management operations in your business, right? So as well, technology provide lots of data and insights that can help you make informed decisions and ultimately improve the business ROI. So ultimately understanding what are your business goals and also the challenges that you have, working through the action plan and also matrix so that you can track it accordingly. Therefore, you are being able to actually determine whether you are investing in the right technology to help support your business growth.
Done, very good answer. Aravind, to you, technology on a scale of 0 of 1 to 10, how important is it for you?
Absolutely, it's most important thing for me. Technology is the most important thing. So that is what we were successful in Japan, basically, where we have the telematics installed in all the cars. We can easily study the driver's pattern, which is more crucial. And it's not available in other countries like Taiwan, where I don't have a telematics, but it's something crucial and it's something sentimental as well over here in this diverse continent. The reason is basically so there were people doesn't like you to get monitored through telematics. So this is one of the data privacy concern as well across Asia, where stuff to implement telematics across Asia content, but it's always a successful one and it's more helpful one for us to. As a fleet manager, it's going to be a more helpful thing when you implement a technology.
Aravind, Ernest, the last words of today are for you. How important is
Okay,
tech for you on a
for
scale
me,
from 1 to 10?
it is very important, especially if the size of your fleet is more than 10, more than what you can count with your fingers. Because if you have 5 or 7, less than 10, maybe you can manage it. But it becomes more than 10, then you need telemetry and technology to help you manage it. Actually, with using of telemetry, you're not only managing your fleet, of the cost, of the maintenance, and the efficiencies. You also get the driver data on how they drive. You're actually helping them maybe save their life or save, not get into an accident, right? So these are the things that you prevent that when you're using technology, you won't say, "Oh, I just saved 10,000 lives because 10,000 of my drivers were driving safe for the past 2 years." You cannot put a number to that. But when that accident happens, and then you review the telemetry, then you will tell to yourself, "Oh, so these are the technologies that help," and you realize, I think I need to do more to really change the behavior of the driver. So not only the maintenance and the efficiency, but also the person driving the car.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank Geotab again for being the partner of today's Fleet APAC expert meeting. Save the date for this event coming up very soon. That's the Global Fleet Summit Virtual Edition, which will be happening on November 26th, 2024. And we will be focusing on the 10 burning questions for fleet professionals around the world. It is a global fleet event, so we will be talking about all of the regions. And as a sneak preview, I'm really happy to share with you that we have a date for the next Fleet APAC Summit, which will happen again in Bangkok on June 11th and June 12th in 2025. And we're looking forward to have at least an event that is as popular and successful as the one we had this year. This leaves me with thanking you for being here, thanking also our speakers, Jared Singh, Jing from Geotap, Suri from Totline Digital, Johan from Greater Dan, Aravind from Novartis, Izan from Geotap, and Ernest dialing in from the Philippines. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you. You could have been doing something else, but you decided to spend your time with us, and we really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next Fleet APAC activities. Thank you so much, and have a really good week.